Perfect. So, hi everyone, and welcome to today's Graduate Mentor Workshop. What I wish I knew before I started my career. So, thank you everyone for responding to the invite, and it's great to see everyone joining and ready to learn from our speaker today, Anna. So, we will get to Anna in just a moment, but I'll just introduce Graduate Mentor shortly first. So we do host webinars like this once a month to give students, graduates, and mentees a little bit of extra guidance and advice as they make their transition out of university. So I am Karima Kiat. I'm the marketing manager for Graduate Mentor. And this was found in 2020 by Dan Hawes, the director. And the idea behind this platform was to allow students and graduates free one-to-one mentoring sessions to help them reach their career potential with expert support. So I am also the marketing manager for Graduate Recruitment Bureau, GRB, which is the go-to platform for university students, recent grads, alumni, and recruiters as well. And we actually have over 75 staff and thousands of clients across all sectors, with clients such as Amazon, IBM, Unilever, and Ocado, and several other SMEs too. And our recruitment experts have successfully matched well over 8,000 graduates with graduate or executive level jobs too. So we launched Graduate Mentor almost 3 years ago now, and we have a community of over 6,000 students and graduates on our platform as mentees. And they represent a full spectrum of backgrounds and universities and courses, with all of them representing diverse backgrounds and unrepresented groups. So this is the main audience that we are trying to help get on the career ladder. Now this shows where the main bulk of our mentees do come from in terms of university and course. So there's a really good diverse range there. And we have achieved a lot over the last 3 years. As I've said, we've hit over 6,000 mentees on our platform who have all completed a session. And 300 mentors have joined us as well, just over 300. And we've actually hosted 13 of workshops just like this one, which are all recorded and on our website for you to look back on as well. So we do have a large social following as well. So we reach around 53,000 accounts each month. And we have 22 success stories from mentees that have either had great outcomes from their interviews or landed a job or just gained confidence in their job search as well. And we have hosted skilled webinars directly with 7 different universities too. So we work very closely with the universities, and we have some great partners supporting us to help us cover costs as well and allow us to actually maintain Graduate Mentor in the future. So thank you to GRB, SureServe Group, Softwire, and Oakwood for supporting us. We appreciate it. So then moving on to our speaker today, Anna. Anna is a leadership coach and motivational speaker. And one of Anna's many goals is to get leaders and their teams mentally fit to unlock their full potential to deliver incredible results. So she's worked with some of the biggest organizations in the world by coaching their staff and helping them transform their professional thinking and behavior for the better. So it's a privilege to have you here, Anna, and I know everyone's raring to hear from you. I certainly am. Just to note for everyone, whilst Anna's speaking, if you could just make sure to have yourself on mute, but please type any questions that you have in the chat throughout, and then we can just cover all of the questions at the end. And as I mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded, so you have the chance to come back to this in the future if you need to as well. So on that note, Anna, would you like to take over?
I would love to. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just share my screen. Okay, guys, absolute pleasure to be here. I'll tell you why, because obviously I was a graduate once, and what I'm going to be talking to you about today is very close to my heart. I'm actually passionate about going into blue chip companies and smaller companies to talk to grads at the beginning of their journey, because my God, have I learned so much along my own journey that I wish I knew right at the beginning. And that is why I have titled this presentation, What I Wish I Knew Before I Started My Career. Let me tell you a little bit more about me and my story. So I graduated from Nottingham Uni gosh, about 20 years ago. Can you believe it? That's a long time ago. And I studied management and French at the time. I had a year abroad in France. And my first placement was at L'Oreal. I worked at L'Oreal for about 7 years, and I started on their graduate program. And it was amazing, but hardcore. And it was an incredible experience. And at the time, I was obviously a high achiever. It was quite a hard thing to get onto. I'm very proud of myself for getting on it. But my goodness, my mental fitness wasn't at its best at the time. In fact, what I know now that I'm a coach and a trainer, I know in hindsight, I absolutely was an ex-perfectionist. It's something I'm going to be referencing today, the dangers of perfectionism, because I just wanted to please everyone. I'd be the last to leave the office. I got run down. Later in my career, even I got so burned out, I had a breakdown. There are all these kind of challenges that I was facing as a result to not having the most powerful mindset at the time. And that's where a lot of this content is coming from. It's things I've learned along the way that I know is going to hugely help you jump with 2 feet into your careers with a powerful mindset that is going to serve you for optimizing your performance. Now, I did always deliver the results. I'm not saying I didn't. I've had a great career in various companies, global roles, a lot of leadership roles. But what I'm sharing is that there was a dark side of burnout that I just really hope that I can help coach you to kind of avoid in the position you're in, because you're at the beginning of your career. I've been a mental health coach and expert for the last 5 years. So I spent about 15 years with working in big corporates in sales and marketing mainly, and a long time at L'Oreal, as I said. Then I became a mental health coach. That was off the back of my breakdown. I thought about the things that I was most passionate about. I considered my values. I wanted to help others that had been in a similar position. And I upskilled myself to become a mental health coach. And I've been doing that for the last kind of 5 years. But more recently, over the past sort of year and a half, I've really kind of tailored my business to become more of a performance and mindset coach. Now, I'm passionate about performance, maybe because I've got a background in the commercial world and I'm all about getting great results. But when I talk about performance in this context, it's about how you're showing up in every aspect of your life. I want you listening in here now to be showing up as your best self with your friends, in your career, with your as a leader one day, as a teammate, maybe in a sports team, at the gym. How you show up is completely linked to how you feel within yourself and your mindset. There's a massive link, and that's why I'm a performance and mindset coach, because I've got that mental health background behind me for me to understand performance at another level. If I'm dealing with a CEO of a company, if I'm dealing with a football player, it might be that they're already really quite resilient. But what's interesting is that there still could be not performing at their absolute best because there might be some barrier in the way, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's them struggling to move on from the past. We all are held back by certain barriers. So I'm going to be sort of talking a bit about that today. Here's the overall plan. I've got 6 lessons for you. I'm just going to whack them up on the screen in the interest of time. I'm going to talk about the link between mental fitness and performance and the importance of deep foundations. I'm going to share with you the most important skill that any human can possibly have. And I wish I had it earlier, but I've certainly got it now. The importance of personal responsibility, how we need to be controlling the controllables and how we need to stop obsessing with the stuff out of our control. We need to let it go because it only will create stress and anxiety. Here we go, the reference to perfectionism. That was my downfall. I want you to watch out for it. I'm going to show you how to watch out for it. And I'm going to end by the last lesson, how to embrace a growth mindset to enjoy the journey. You may have heard the word growth mindset before. I wouldn't be surprised if you had, like on a podcast, or it's been name dropped left, right and centre probably. But not many people really understand what it means. And I want to dig deeper into it, because if you don't embrace a growth mindset at this stage of your career, you're going to hinder yourself. So to be able to step into your career at this point with an open mind, with the tools to be able to be vulnerable and to be open to a learning journey, it is going to absolutely going to set you on your way to optimizing your own full potential. And that's what I'm all about. How do we optimize our full potential? There'll be a Q&A at the end, as I said. Now, first lesson. Thinking bigger about mental fitness and performance. I want you to understand that you cannot perform at your best unless you're mentally fit. But what does mental fitness mean? Well, we know what physical fitness is. I'm sure lots of you listening in are going to the gym or hopefully Maybe some of you are getting out in nature regularly, maybe meditating now and again, which is fab. Maybe you listen to podcasts to kind of open your mind. But mental fitness goes a lot deeper than just the surface level stuff. Mental fitness for me is about deep foundations. But before I come to that, I just want to share with you this statistic. 90%, this is interesting, roughly 90% of your thoughts that you're having today are the same as the thoughts you had yesterday. Now, the question I want you to ask yourself is, what percentage of those thoughts you're having today are helpful versus unhelpful? Because if I've got someone who is struggling with something, and by the way, I deal with people who are already incredibly resilient, but I deal with a lot of people that are down the other end of the scale, could be struggling with social anxiety, fear of public speaking, phobias, depression. I deal with everything along that spectrum, by the way. But if I've got someone who's facing barriers and really struggling, then I know that they are going to be repeating the same thoughts every single day. 90% of them are going to be very similar to how they were yesterday, which means they get stuck in this repetitive loop of repeating the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same behavior, and it all just keeps looping round. So unless we do something kind of a deep mindset level, we're not going to be able to affect the type of thoughts we're having each day. And that's what I'm about when it comes to performance and mindset. I just want to help you understand how repetitive your thinking is, because at this early stage of your career, I want to get you in the mindset of challenging your autopilot where it's not serving you well, because life is too short for average. This is absolutely my motto. Even if I've got a high performer that I'm working with, like I say, maybe it's a well-known footballer, they may be performing well, but that's still their average. There's so much more to unlock. Now, when it comes to mental fitness, which completely impacts performance, as I keep saying, the question is, how mentally fit are you? What percentage of the 50,000 thoughts roughly that you're having each day are helpful? As I asked you that question earlier, well, you have between 50,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day on average. You're only aware of 90% of them. You're only aware of 10% of them. 90% of them are unconscious. What percentage of them are helpful versus unhelpful? That's the question you want to be asking yourself. Now, when it comes to mental fitness, I gave you some references of surface level things that can really help: meditation, sleeping well, turning your phone off, all brilliant in terms of mindfulness. But what really matters is how deep your foundations are. And that's why I'm showing you a picture of the Shard. I know you're not going to forget this picture. Everyone knows where this building is. You can't miss it. Imagine how deep the foundations are of the Shard. Now, when it comes to mental fitness, it's easy to focus on the bit above the ground. If this was a person, it would be their thinking. So when you get out in nature, it's helpful. It calms your head. It calms your headspace. When you meditate, you get a similar impact. When you're running, the endorphins fill your body. It's fantastic. This is all referring to the bit above the ground, how we firefight to kind of keep our mindfulness. Well, mental fitness goes way deeper. How deep your psychological foundations are depends on how high your self-esteem is. It depends on how powerful the beliefs are that you have in life. For example, do you believe you're someone that can succeed? Do you believe that you're someone, on the other hand, that will never get what you really want for yourself? You'll never meet the partner that you should be with? Do you believe that you'll always be nervous presenting in public? Or do you believe that you're someone that is really good at making friends? We all have different beliefs, and our belief system is what represents what is below the ground when I'm talking about this Shard analogy. For a person, it's your psychological foundations. And I'm bringing your intention to how important it is to build deep foundations for yourself if you want to perform at your best. Because your building, which is your thinking, cannot stand tall unless you've got that high self-esteem rooting it down, for example. It's going to be swaying. You're going to experience overthinking, perfectionism, negative thinking, catastrophic thinking. Lots of different types of unhelpful thoughts are going to drive unhelpful symptoms, and we don't want that. That's poor mental fitness, right? I want it to be the case that you've got clarity of thought, that you have got perspective, that you can make decisions based on facts, that you can think creatively and innovatively. All of these are things that make a fantastic leader, which is maybe what you want to be one day. You need the deep foundations pinning you down. So just one small little tip as a side note on how you can work on your self-esteem, because most people aren't in control of it. For most of us, our self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, is very much determined by what's going on around us in life, the validation we might get. We'll feel bad if we have conflict. We'll feel good if we get chatted up. We'll feel even better if we lose some weight. We feel bad if something else happens. And it's a roller coaster journey. I just want to make one quick tip for you. I could talk to you for hours just about self-esteem. My one small tip is at the end of each day, ask yourself, what have I done well today? Ideally, write it down, the one thing that you've done well, and then ask yourself, what does it say about me that I did this thing well? So for example, maybe I go for a 25-minute run. I ask myself, what does it say about me that I went for a 25-minute run today? And I answer myself in my head, I am motivated. I am in control of my health and fitness. And if you could just get into the habit of doing that at the end of each day before you go to bed, imagine it like you are just adding a little bit more depth to those foundations. Because if you don't do that, which is what most people do, because of the human negativity bias, you're going to be way more likely to think, what wasn't good enough today? What did I not do well enough today? And what happens is people chip at their own foundations without even meaning to. So that's a little tip there for you. Remember the importance of deep foundations. Another myth that I just want to dispel is that the more stressed you are, the better your performance. Absolutely not. What you're looking at here is a stressometer. If you imagine number 10 is the highest level of stress, imagine it as the chemical, the cortisol oozing through your body. It's a horrible feeling when you're highly stressed. I think we can probably all relate to it. When people are highly stressed, they may think that that's when they perform their best. But absolutely that is not the case. When you have pressure on you, I understand if when you're experiencing pressure, you might feel that you perform better, but stress is never helpful. Stress is something that will cloud our judgment of thought, that will encourage us, in fact, to make a decision based on emotion rather than fact. So rather than people thinking that the high performance zone is when this dial is further up towards the orange and red, actually the answer, when people perform their best, is when the dial is low. It doesn't matter how much your workload is. It doesn't matter how much pressure is on. If you have the mental fitness and confidence to remain calm in that situation, you are going to benefit from clarity of thought, better decision making. If you're a leader, you're going to be able to tailor your approach to different team members. You're going to be able to think more clearly about any decision you've got to make. You're certainly going to be able to think more creatively. You're not going to be believing the stories in your head if you are low on your stressometer. So that's just a little myth I wanted to dispel, that more stress equals better performance. No, it doesn't. And if you just think about when you last walked into an exam, if you were on edge and you were losing sleep the night before, you probably found yourself being quite forgetful and not being able to think straight. And that's exactly what we want to avoid. And this is why mental fitness is really important to work on. Not just the mindfulness stuff, the deeper stuff, the building your self-esteem. Talk to me separately if you've got any issues with self-esteem. It's something I specialize in. But bear this in mind, because it's really useful to know at this stage of your career. I want you to be incentivized to keep the stress levels low. It's not a sign of success. It's quite the opposite. So when it comes to how we work, I've already said you have 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Behind every single thought you have is a belief. I want you to think about that image of the shard I've just showed you. Imagine the foundations below it. The foundations are representative of the beliefs you have in life, and you'll have probably thousands, if not millions, of beliefs, whether it's a belief in a god or no god or gods, or a belief I'm good enough or I'm not good enough. The beliefs are what drive everything else that you're experiencing, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviour, and the behaviour just simply loops it all back round. So I'm not going to go into this slide much more than just reminding you the importance of identifying when you have a limiting belief. You may have heard those words before, you may have not. A limiting belief is a belief that is not serving you well. It's a belief that's holding you back from being happy in life or from succeeding. At this stage of your career, you want to identify what your limiting beliefs are. Do you believe that you're always going to have to please everyone? Do you believe that everything has to be perfect? Do you believe that you'll always be stressed when a plan changes? We need to get to the crux of those limiting beliefs, and we need to change them so that what you're experiencing is a much more smooth, helpful and powerful cycle that is going to lead to not just more helpful behaviour and experiences in life, but better results. And after all, we get what we focus on. So I'm just going to talk you through two analogies here. This is something I just think is really important and useful for you to know. I wish I knew this before I went into my career. That loop I showed you, that self-fulfilling prophecy of repetitive thinking and behaviour. Remember earlier I shared 90% of your thoughts today are the same as yesterday. This is kind of linked to that. So here on the left, you can see Derek. Derek is my door person, or my doorman. He's a man for me in my mind. And he is what he allows certain pieces of information through my filters, because we are exposed to 2 million pieces of information a second, and we only process about 127. So Derek in the past has been quite stupid and unhelpful, to be honest, because when I used to believe I wasn't good enough, when I used to believe that everything had to be perfect, all he would filter in was examples of me making a mistake and that being the end of the world. He would be on the lookout for why other people were better than me. And so I'm trying to explain this analogy to help you understand that we do get what we focus on. We have tunnel vision in our life, depending on the beliefs that we've got and our model of the world, and that determines the information we let in. So if I believe I'm not good enough, I'm not going to be noticing the opportunities for promotion. I may see it come up on a website, but I'm certainly not giving it my attention because I don't believe I'm capable of that. So Derek the doorman might shut that off and not allow me to process it properly. The other analogy to use is this concept of, and excuse me, I'm about to say a swear word, shit tinted lenses. So these glasses you can see, they represent the tunnel vision that we have in life, which I've been talking about here in a different way with the door person. We have tunnel vision based on our belief systems as well. So we really do get what we focus on. If I wake up in the morning and believe it's going to be a bad day, guess what? The shit tinted lenses are on and I have tunnel vision as I focus on all the problems in my day. I notice it's raining. I get annoyed about the dishwasher not being emptied. I look at myself in the mirror and pick up all the things I don't like. We get what we focus on. So one of the biggest skills that I want to share with you is coming up next and relates to those lenses. And here we go. Lesson number 2. So lesson number 1, just to remind you, was the relationship between mental fitness and performance and the importance of being mentally fit. And it's not just about the surface level mindfulness stuff, guys. It's about the foundations. Lesson 2, here's the most important skill of humankind in my view. And it relates to how are you choosing to experience life? How are you choosing to view life through your lens? And what I want to encourage you to do, which I never knew at the time, is how to build your self-awareness and notice when your shit tinted glasses are on. How do you know when they're on? Well, it's kind of obvious. You're going to have an unhelpful thought or you're going to have a really unhelpful feeling in your body, whether it's fear, anxiety, intimidation, anger. Anything negative is a sign that you've got your shit tinted lenses on. Because what's interesting, guys, is that we are all experiencing reality in a completely and utterly different way, because we've all got a different pair of these lenses and we've all been shaped differently based on the experiences we've had in life. I was brought up as a Catholic, so for many years I viewed life through a lens believing that God existed, and that was reinforced every time I went to church, of course. But for someone else, they might not view life through that same lens. I'm also someone who tends to view life in a positive way. So I'll kind of be likely to notice the lambs in the fields and the flowers, but someone else might not see that field in the same way. So I want you just to take stock of when you notice your shit tinted lenses slip on, because they're not on all the time, guys, for most people. Build your awareness of when they're on. Now, let me talk to you about this a little bit more. And this is really going into the point I just made, that we are all experiencing reality differently. So let's imagine that there's this cute puppy, right? Comes up to you. Most people on this call are probably going to be okay with puppies. Some might not be, but I guess that's my point, that we all view things differently. I know for most people, they're going to experience that puppy in the same way. They're going to maybe stroke it. It's going to make you smile. You're going to view it through a helpful lens because you have a helpful belief about dogs. What happens when you have an unhelpful belief about dogs? Let's say you've got a friend next to you who has a phobia of dogs and is wearing a catastrophic pair of lenses, so to speak. Maybe they've picked that habit up from a parent growing up, or a parent didn't like dogs and so they've copied that. The way they experience this exact same puppy is transformationally different. Now, the lesson at your stage, early stage in your lives, really is when you're struggling with something, whether it's an end of year review, whether it's writing a presentation, whether it's an exam, the problem is never the problem. The problem here is not the dog. It's not the puppy. The problem isn't the exam. The problem isn't the job interview. The problem is just the way you're thinking about it through your lenses. Now, this presents an incredible opportunity for people to take the power back and control those lenses, taking ownership, recognizing, okay, I'm blaming the job interview for why I feel nervous. How can I view this differently? Because something I want to hammer home now is thoughts aren't fact, and beliefs aren't fact either. And if at this early stage in your careers, you can start challenging the stories in your head and telling yourself, this thought, at least I know it's not fact. How can I take these lenses off and view this in a more helpful way? It is an absolute game changer. It's the root of emotional intelligence, and it's a brilliant thing for you to start practicing. Here's just a short video that's just going to reinforce what I've explained here. Hopefully the sound's going to work. Karima, let me know if not. It's going to tell you what you need to do in the video. It's only a minute or so. All I want you to do is count the number of passes that the team in the white t-shirt make. They're just playing catch with the ball, okay? The team in the white t-shirts. Right, guys, I know you can't answer me, but I'm intrigued to know how many of you spotted the gorilla. I would guess half of you probably did and half of you probably didn't. When I first watched that video, I got the number of the passes wrong. I didn't even see the gorilla, and I definitely didn't see the rest. So why is that? You're probably getting a bit of an idea as to why I've shown you that video. I show that in all the businesses I go in. So I should have said at the beginning, I do work with some great companies that you will know. I still work with L'Oreal a lot. I work with LinkedIn, but I also work with lots of smaller companies and even schools sometimes, and everyone loves that video because it makes a really poignant point. And that is, of course, we only see what we expect to see. I asked you, of course, to count the passes. I asked you to count the passes, and so, of course, you didn't see what was going on around the edge. Now, if I believe I'm not good enough, me counting the passes in life is representative of me over processing mistakes. The reason that someone just looked at me funny, all the stuff around the edge that I'm missing when it comes to this tunnel vision, think about your shit tinted lenses. The tunnel vision means that I miss the bigger picture of people telling me I'm good at my job, or I look nice today, or that I'm a great friend. I don't notice those things. Remember, there's only so much that we can process through our filters. What is your door person letting in, and what are they blocking out? Now, once you have a little reflection of what those limiting beliefs might be, and yes, you might need some help from coaching on that front, and I'm here if anyone needs any help, then once you can get rid of those limiting beliefs, because they're completely changeable, it is amazing what you start noticing and how different life becomes. Lesson 3. This is a big one. Take full personal responsibility. Now, what do I mean by that? Maybe it sounds obvious, but here's a really nice analogy. If your life was a bus, where are you sitting on it? Are you driving it or are you in the passenger seat? Now, I know many people in life flip between the two seats. That's kind of normal. But I want you to be able to know how to get in that driving seat and how to stay in it. It might be that you feel in the driving seat when it comes to health and fitness, but you're in the passenger seat at the moment with a relationship that you're in. Or maybe you feel like you're in the passenger seat with the job interview process, but you're in the driving seat when it comes to your friends. There is a way to get in the driving seat overall, and I'm going to just talk to you about that in a minute. The concept of whether life is happening to you or are you happening to life is an interesting one. I want it to be the case that you are happening to life. That would be you in the driving seat, by the way. Here's a picture that kind of explains what this means. Don't worry about all the bits around the edge. I just want you to look at the arrows. Clearly, this is a person who's feeling out of control. They believe life is happening to them. They are blaming external factors for why they feel the way they do. And this is a mistake that people can make very late on in their careers, and it can carry on for the rest of their life. As soon as you blame your bad day on the weather, as soon as you blame your stress on the workload, you are hitting a brick wall. That victim mentality is so unhelpful because it will only ever create stress and anxiety. Now, what we want for ourselves, if you notice the arrows are changing, in this picture, the power is with all of these external factors. It's with the past, it's with the weather, it's with what other people think. Here, this is a person who is feeling in the driving seat of her life or their life, and they recognize that whatever is going on around them, even if it's raining outside and it's gloomy, even if they didn't get the job interview, they are recognizing that they have the choice in how they choose to respond to those things. They've got a skill set. They've certainly got the skill set that I've shown you just before. They understand how to manage their lenses. They understand how to manage their response to things in life. Now, that is worth learning how to do in itself. So you want to be this person who believes they're happening to life, that gets really good at influencing what they can, being proactive and letting go of what they can't. And this leads on really nicely to a very quite blunt lesson, really. Lesson 4, control the controllables. Why do we spend so much time obsessing over why did that go wrong in the past? And what if that goes wrong when I do that presentation to that group in the future? Too many people are not here in the now, in the present. You are in your power in the now and only in the now. You are not in your power if you're worrying about something that's just happened or about something that might happen in the future. So influence what you can. And here's a philosophy now that I have, didn't used to have it, that I have learned along the way, and I really want to share it with you. For me, 5% of life happens to us. 5% of life is represented by things happening out of our control. And 95% of life is represented by how I choose to respond to those things. Now, the problem is in the past, I used to obsess over the stuff out of my control and have no influence on how I chose to respond to those things. So what I'm encouraging you to do is put all your energy into managing those lenses that choose how you respond to the stuff out of your control. That is how to stay in the driving seat of life. Even if somebody gets COVID, even if you get some bad news, even if you don't get the job interview, even if you're going through a breakup, if you can keep this philosophy in mind, you're going to always stay in the driving seat. Right, I'm going to talk really quickly about perfectionism now. Perfectionism. So, which of these is the perfectionist? You can probably see. I would like to speak to you a lot longer about this, but in the interest of time, I just want to get straight to the point. Perfectionism is not a backhanded compliment. It will stifle your growth. So this picture shows that a perfectionist on the right here sets an unrealistically high target for themselves because they're running away from feeling bad about themselves. This is why people do it. This is why I did it. It sets people up for failure. They are scared to step out of their comfort zone. They are scared to learn. They're scared to ask questions because they are so fearful of judgment. They are afraid of failure, but most importantly, there is social anxiety going on here. They're afraid of failing in front of others. The person on the left here is just making gradual progress. They're setting realistic targets. They are noticing the progress they are making along the way. They are being kind to themselves. They are calm as a result. They get to the top quicker and more calmly. I'm not saying a perfectionist can't deliver a great result. They can, because I've done that many a time in my life. But in the background, there was this dark edge of burnout, and it's dangerous. And some of you listening in here, or many of you may not have children yet, but if one day you want to have kids, you cannot be a perfectionist and live a healthy life with children. So please beware of perfectionism. And if you notice that critical inner voice, which is common of perfectionism, beating yourself up, obsessing over what's not good enough, which is how you kind of notice you've got it, then please just take the effort and notice the things that you are doing well. I know it doesn't feel natural, but that's why I said to you at the end of each day, ask yourself to name one thing that you did well. Was there an example of you being patient, tolerant, making a little bit of progress? Did you get some good feedback? It doesn't have to be big things, but start getting in the habit of taking off the perfectionist lens and putting on a much more helpful pair. And my biggest learning of all, 80% here, basically represents me learning that by putting 80% of my energy into every aspect of life, into fitness, into my career, into running my business, into my relationship with my husband, into my kids, into my diet, 80% of effort and energy across all these aspects of life results in 100% performance. And that's because in the past, when I used to put 110% when I was a perfectionist, obviously going above and beyond, it led to burnout. So I might have put 110% into work, but my fitness was at 40%, my relationship was at 40%. And as you can kind of get the gist, the formula, it falls over on itself, and it leads to burnout and underperformance. Balance is going to drive optimized performance without a doubt. That is my biggest learning that I wanted to share with you today of all. Balance is going to ironically lead to you performing better. Take your foot off the pedal. And finally, am I doing all right for time, Karima?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Go for it. No problem.
Cool. Finally, and most importantly, but you need all the stuff that came before to understand this bit. You need to embrace a growth mindset if you really want to optimize your full potential in your career. A fixed mindset would be the perfectionist. A fixed mindset person, I'm going to explain in a minute, doesn't enjoy the journey. They're obsessed with the end result, like I used to be. And at the end of the day, if you want to grow, which I'm sure you all do because you're here learning today, you've got to step out your comfort zone. There ain't no growth in your comfort zone. I'm sure you may have heard of that before. But how do you step out your comfort zone unless you're feeling more powerful in yourself, unless you build those deeper foundations, which is why it's worth considering getting a coach or working on yourself, getting rid of those limiting beliefs so that you're able to more comfortably step out your comfort zone. So what's the growth mindset? I'm going to talk you through the difference between both, because there's a fixed mindset and there's a growth mindset. And it all came about from somebody called Carol Dweck. She has a book called Mindset. If anyone ever wants to read it, it's kind of heavy, but it's great. And she identified that there's two different people in life. And I'm just going to talk you through this and get straight to the point, so we've got time for questions. A fixed mindset person, which I used to be, believes this is as good as I get. That is the perfectionist. This is who I am, and there's nothing I can do about it. A growth mindset person recognizes they are a work in progress. There's always more to learn. A fixed mindset person, my qualities are carved in stone. Whereas the growth mindset person sees that skills are cultivated through effort. I can always get better about something. A fantastic line from Carol Dweck's book or phrase is the power of yet. So if there's a kid that gets 2 out of 10 in a spelling test, but they've worked hard and they've only got a 2 out of 10, then that's okay. They haven't got 10 out of 10 yet, but there's the chance for them to work harder at it. And if next time they come back and they get a 3 or a 4 out of 10, then that's an improvement and it should be celebrated. That's the growth mindset model. The fixed mindset person is motivated by validation. That was me. I needed to be liked. I needed to hear I was doing a good job. I bet some people are listening in and relating to this. Now I'm motivated by growth and challenge. I still love to get a great result. I still strive for excellence, but I'm motivated by seeing that I've learned something new, that I'm adapting. And rather than seeing outcomes as a direct measure of your self-worth, for example, if someone gets a D in their GCSE and perceives that to be horrendous. They might think I'm an awful person, I'm a piece of crap. You know, I've dealt with kids that are suicidal from that. That's a fixed mindset, and it's dangerous. Instead, it's realizing that outcomes aren't a reflection of you as a person. There's something to be worked on. They avoid risk and challenge, whereas, of course, the growth mindset person embraces it. They see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. And the fixed mindset person will blame outside sources. Oh, I did a bad job on that project because my manager didn't help me enough and I just had too much on my plate at the time. Whereas the growth mindset person will take personal responsibility. How could I have managed my time better to get a better result with that project? It's a total different mindset. Ignoring feedback rather than learning from feedback. There's another big one. So 2 phrases I just want to introduce. You want to be the learner. The learner is the person with the growth mindset. They are happy to ask questions. They are open about what they don't yet know, and they know they are on a journey. You don't want to be the perfectionist, the fixed mindset knower, the person who pretends they know everything, will only stay in the comfort zone doing what they know they're really good at. They're too scared to step out of it because you're going to stifle your growth. This is a really important slide, guys, really important at this early stage of your career. And I wish I was taught it earlier. Be the learner, not the knower. And really appreciate the journey that you're on. It's not about the end result. You will get the end result by praising the journey and processing the journey. But reflect on your learnings, reflect on what went wrong, reflect on what you can do differently, praise tolerance, praise your patience. This is where it's at, guys. And I never, ever used to see life in this way. It was all about the next thing. I'll be happy when I get the next job. I'll be good enough when I get the next promotion. So unhealthy. It's all about the journey. I'm going to skip that and I've got to flick to this slide, which is really just reinforcing what I've just showed you, what people think success looks like rather than what it does look like. You are going to have knockbacks and rejection, and you're going to have hurdles to overcome. And that's cool. Expect it. Expect that. That's powerful to expect it. And then tolerate it when it comes and learn from it. Don't be scared of it. Step right out of that comfort zone and embrace the journey. I'm going to end there because I really want to give the opportunity for questions. Hopefully I wasn't speaking too quickly. I have tried to hurry that through a little bit because I want you to have the chance to ask me stuff. Before I do, if you enjoyed that content, there's a whole lot more of it. Follow me on LinkedIn and on Instagram at Anna Mosley Coaching. There's probably going to be tidbits in there that can really keep you motivated on a daily basis. And if anybody is interested in coaching, I am very happy to offer you a special price power hour at £99 or a life audit. If you're someone who is interested in seeing where you're at in your life right now versus where you want to be and wants to close that gap and set objectives for yourself to get there, then a life audit session could be brilliant for you as well. And that's normally 200, but I'm offering it today at 150. So life audit at 150. Power hour if you want a one-off coaching session at 99, and there's loads of other options that we can discuss once we've spoken. And if anyone's got a confidential question you don't want to say now, totally fine, because I deal a lot with all mental health related stuff as much as performance and mental fitness. If it's confidential, just reach out to me and I'll happily have a chat with you. But thank you for your time. I hope you found that useful, and fire away with your questions. Thanks, Karima.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Anna. It's a really, really great presentation there. I think it's really good to know that you can change your mindset and give yourself the confidence as well. Yeah, especially from moving from university to work, people need to be prepared and confident in themselves that they can do the job, because everyone's perfectly capable. And so let's go through some questions. It looks like Toyin, in relation to the L'Oreal graduate scheme, what advice would you give to students looking into these opportunities whilst maintaining healthy mental fitness?
Oh gosh, what a good question. So firstly, I just advise you to go for every opportunity that appeals to you. Don't shy away from it. This whole presentation really, or a big chunk of it, has been about stepping out your comfort zone. Start by starting. I just think you've got to work on yourself. I think you've got to never neglect how important it is to build those deep foundations. So if you need help with building self-esteem, because self-esteem underpins everything you do and will always underpin everything you do, then invest in a coach to help you do that, to help you get there. That's super important. And make sure if you have any unhelpful thoughts about maybe an interview or getting on a grad scheme and you're beating yourself up, remind yourself that those thoughts aren't fact. You've got to get back to rational thinking, and you've got to look for the bigger picture.
Great, thank you, Anna. If anyone else wants to put any questions in the chat, you can do that now. I actually have a little question for myself as well. So I am a little bit of a perfectionist in myself. I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I would sometimes not really even start a task because I'd be so worried that it wouldn't be done exactly how it should be. So I was just wondering if you have any advice on how to start certain tasks, maybe if you're feeling that way.
Oh, that's a great question. And there's a massive link between perfectionism and procrastination. You kind of explained it really nicely there, Karima, but just to clarify, of course a perfectionist is scared to start because it might not be good enough. There's a fear of judgment, and I used to think the same. I'll start when I know I can complete the whole thing. I'll start when I think it's going to be good enough that I'm happy with the end result, and then it ends up not starting and you create all this stress, right? So the first piece of advice is start by starting and praise the progress. You can always come back and refine something. It's so powerful to step out of your comfort zone. And the other good advice, I think, is to see everything new as an experiment. Don't think it has to be perfect. Just think that there's going to be an outcome. And outcomes are really insightful. Like, what can I learn from it not going so well? And if it went well, praise yourself. But for a perfectionist, it's about learning to praise the progress you're making rather than being obsessed over the end result. So just be proud if you start the first 2 lines of writing a book. Be proud that you started. Praise that progress.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Anna. It looks like we have a couple more questions. So Disha said, hello, thank you for this amazing session. Personally, I know what you were talking about and intellectually I have the information, but does it turn into application? How do you do that?
So how do you turn what I'm talking to you about today into, how do you implement it?
Practicality, I think, yeah.
Yeah, really good question. So a couple of things off today. One, you definitely got to practically put into practice asking yourself at the end of each day what I suggested. What have I done well today? Get your journal out and do it. So you need to actually take action. A chunk of this was about personal responsibility. So I want you off the back of here thinking, what can I do about it? Which I'm going to help you with right now. Asking yourself what you did well is one thing. The other thing I challenge you all to do, because this is all about stepping out of comfort zones, step out of your comfort zone every single day in some way. You all know what's uncomfortable. That feeling of discomfort, I'm telling you guys, is powerful. It's a reframe for me. I've completely reframed it. It means you're exactly where you need to be when you feel that discomfort. If you have imposter syndrome, you're where you need to be. You're about to grow. Set yourself a challenge to step out your comfort zone, whether it's cooking a new meal, whether it's picking up the phone to an old friend, paying a bill that you've been putting off, something every day. That's how you're going to notice progress. So I'd say that's how you apply what you've taken from today, because it involves personal responsibility. You've got a chance to process what you've done well, and you're stepping out your comfort zone.
Brilliant.
Boom.
Great. And Luke is asking, he said, thank you for the insightful presentation. I have always had a mindset or work towards a goal, achieving it, then immediately on to the next target without stopping to recognize the achievement. Is that a negative mindset?
Oh, what a great, thank you for sharing that, because again, I should have said, and you may have noticed, but my favorite topic to talk about is perfectionism. I only touched on it today. That's perfectionism, right? So a perfectionist, usually they set targets that are unrealistically high, but when they do achieve them, you can forget them processing that they even got there, because before you can breathe, they've set themselves another target. Yes, that is unhelpful, because that's doing is it's meaning that you're not feeding your foundations. You're not reflecting on what you've learned from that process, how well you did to get there. The thing is, though, it's not even about the end result that you managed to get. For me, I'd rather you praise the progress on how you got there than the actual achievement itself. So if someone runs a marathon, it's way more important that they've praised the progress of getting there. You know, the pain of going from a 20-minute run to a 4-hour run to a 5-hour run should be praised. The strength of their body should be praised, not just the day that they run it. So be careful that you don't just go and set the next target. It's classic perfectionism. I used to do it at the time. And a phrase I want to introduce you to just quickly is, and I'm going to write a blog on this very soon, the happiness trap. People moving the bars. I'll be happy when I run it 10 minutes faster. I'll be happy when I get the next promotion. Be wary of when you're doing that and sit in the now. You're in your power when you're in the now.
Brilliant. Yeah, you almost do that just subconsciously, don't you? Just this the happiness line and when I'll do that when. Yeah. So great, thank you. And just the last question, Molly said thank you so much for this session. How would you differentiate between an unhelpful thought and a negative thought that could be helpful?
A negative thought that could be helpful. Can a negative thought be helpful? Well, firstly, unhelpful thoughts. I need to check I understand this question at the end, but let me answer what I think she means. An unhelpful thought can come in many different kinds. So an unhelpful, and it's really good to label your thought. Is it a catastrophic thought? Are you blowing things out of proportion? Is it a negative thought where you're just thinking this is going to be boring, this is going to be bad? Is it a perfectionist thought? Oh, I should be doing more. Could it be a paranoid thought? They're looking at me, they're judging me. So label your thoughts, because that's helpful. I'd say any unhelpful thought is literally, as it says, unhelpful. A negative thought is always unhelpful. For me, it's about replacing any form of unhelpful thought with a helpful one. And that would be changing your language to, but what are the facts? And what if this does go right? And when did I last do something similar where I can draw upon the evidence that proves that I can do it? I'm not sure if that directly answered the question, hopefully.
That's kind of the vibe that I got, I think. Hope that answers your question, Molly. Teresa, this is just one last one, and then we'll wrap up. This might be one for off camera as well later on. But do you mind offering some advice around maintaining your daily armor when working in a hostile environment? For example, if you are facing sexism in the workplace, in order to continue working at your best.
Yeah, okay, two things there. You have got to build your own self-esteem. Please speak to me separately if anyone wants a session on how to build their self-esteem from within. Trust me, it will change your life. You've got to do that because you cannot be influenced by the opinions of others or validation or non-validation of others. So you need to protect yourself. That is the armor for me, is having self-esteem that I'm in control of. So that's one opportunity. You probably need some help with that. The second thing is control the controllables, right? I said that as one of the lessons. Influence what you can. If there's sexism going on in the workplace, you need to take action. If that's in line with your values, you take action, you do something about it. You don't obsess over things and then not take action, because that brooding will just cause stress. So I think about, what can I actually do? What are my choices and what's in line with my values, and then take action and be proud of it.
Great. Thank you, Anna. So there are a few more questions. I'm so sorry, we are out of time. However, you have all of Anna's details. You can send over any questions to her after the webinar. But yeah, I think you've answered everything, and thank you so much for your insight, Anna. It's been really great. And it's been a really good turnout today as well. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, all of Anna's details are on the screen. So if you want to get in touch with her, you're more than welcome. And as I said, it's recorded, this webinar, so it'll be up on our YouTube channel later, and we'll send you the link for that as well. All right, thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Karima. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Take care.